Dan Strafford here with your daily fantasy football look at Sunday, Week 7, and we're looking at quarterbacks. Peyton Manning tops my list of probable plays in cash games, $9,000 on DraftKings, $7,750 on Fantasy Aces, $10,000 on FanDuel, and it's simply because you know what you get when you pay for Manning. Now, he's going to take up a lot of the percentage of your salary, and that's something you have to deal with on the back end of wide receiver and running back. But there's plenty of value out there at both positions, and at tight end for that matter. So why not get what you need out of the quarterback position, pay up for Peyton Manning, and he's the most or second most expensive player, but he's putting up the points to back it up. Coming off a what we'll call a down week against the Jets, his price dropped on DraftKings from $9,400 to $9,000, so you save $400 there. Not going to really make a giant move, but that might move you up a tier at running back or wide receiver. So his price coming down there may help you out a good deal. But even further, on the year, Peyton Manning is averaging 3 touchdowns per contest. What is there not to like about Manning this week? As we move on, we look at Aaron Rodgers. Now, Rodgers was 22 of 42 for passing for 264 and 3 touchdowns in Sunday's 27-24 victory over Miami. He also rushed for 34 yards on 7 carries, and that's no small addition to Aaron Rodgers' game. He gives you that little bit more. Is he Cam Newton or Russell Wilson or one of those, dual threat quarterbacks? No. But what Rodgers does is it gives you positive yardage in the run game. And that can be the difference between winning and losing in daily fantasy. It wasn't a monumental week by any stretch of imagination for Rodgers, but he got the job done against a Dolphins defense that has been pretty good all season. This week, Rodgers and the Packers draw Carolina, who's sitting 20th in passing yards allowed per game on the season. If you want to pay up for a quarterback, Rodgers makes sense as well, along with Peyton Manning. Now going to the bottom of the barrel, some GPP, some contrarian plays perhaps, depending on how you're structuring your lineup. Derek Carr, yes, Derek Carr of the Raiders, is coming off a 18 for 34 performance, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns against the San Diego defense that sits 4th overall in passing yards per game allowed this season. Now, Carr, who is hampered by an ankle injury, practiced on Wednesday, question marks of how he will be marked, whether questionable or probable, come the end of the day today. But Arizona, his opponent this week, 309 passing yards allowed per game this season. That ranks last in the NFL on a per game basis. If Andre Holmes continues to raise his game like he did last week, Derek Carr may be just the dime in the rough you're looking for. Finally, Brian Hoyer. And I know Hoyer may just be the unsexiest of the unsexy picks this week for DFS in Week 7, but he just went 8 of 17 last week with just 1 touchdown. All of these things I know, and all of these things are obvious negatives against him. The week before, though, he did go 21 of 37, 291 yards, and 3 scores, did have an interception. The key to playing Hoyer is the fact that you have to hit on your running backs and your wide receiver, because then you're paying up for those positions. So if you're fairly confident at this point that you have paid up and you have done the right due diligence at running back, at wide receiver, and tight end, and you want to spend $5,600, $6,300, or $6,400 on DraftKings, Fantasy Aces, FanDuel, respectively, I like Hoyer this week. He faces a Jacksonville defense that's a bit better against the run than it is the pass, and it's been pretty porous on pass. I believe it's 30th overall in yards per game. So if you're really searching for maybe the Millionaire Maker, maybe one of the bigger GPPs on FanDuel, or even on Fantasy Aces trying to win a trip to Newport Beach, why not give Brian Hoyer a look and see if he fits into your lineup, and we'll see if he pays dividends at the end of Sunday.